Hello everyone, that's a new video. Like and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
What's more traumatizing than people realize?
Workplace bullying or toxic environments. Sometimes you can feel undermined or humiliated by your higher-ups. There's a lot of pressure to perform well, and others can power trip on you, which takes a huge toll on mental health. Not being believed. Having the courage to report to a parent/teacher/cop/etc. and not being believed. When bad things happen in the future, the person won't want to tell anyone because the pain of not being believed is soul-crushing. It's not talked about enough, honestly. Being physically and emotionally abused is awful. But if you could go missing for days at a time and your parents didn't even notice nor care, it hit different. Bonus if your cries for help were blown off by your parents by saying, "I just assumed you weren't that bright," in regards to you missing school assignments and skipping school to see if they'd even notice. One time I drank nothing but vanilla Coke for a month straight to see if my mom would notice. She didn't. I was 9. It was stupid, but I was just a kid who wanted the people who were supposed to care more about me than anyone in the world to notice that I existed. Walking on eggshells at home and your family makes you feel like the issue in question is your fault. Chronic pain, not only because of the literal physical symptoms, but from navigating a health care system that often takes years to give you any meaningful answers while you watch pieces of your life dissolve, not knowing if they'll come back. Your parents arguing in front of you. Literally didn't know people had parents who didn't argue in front of their kids until I heard my sister's husband say he never saw his fight. Being raised in poverty, and I'm not talking about, oh, I can't afford an iPhone so I have an Android. I'm talking about eating the same barley soup for years and years over and over again because there's no money for something else, and being afraid every night you go to sleep because you live in a rough neighborhood where if someone sees you have more than them, they'll get inside you home and steal the few things you have. Hear people getting robbed or stabbed in the street in front of your house, wondering why would your parents decide to have you in this conditions and hating every second of your life. It really traumatized me. Untreated mental illness. It not only sucks, it can lead you to believe it's a monster creeping in if you don't know what it is. For a decade, I spent most of my awake hours being scared of my symptoms. I didn't know what was a trigger at the time, but I was scared that it would happen again, and I lived my life like that. Consistently being yelled at. I still flinch when people raise their voices cause my dad did it all the time. Even though I haven't been yelled at like that in years by him, I'm still slightly scared to ever be around him. Stalking, specifically cyberstalking. Saw my partner go through it and it almost killed her. Dude was hijacking all her devices and was hiding in all her social media accounts. Just watching like a friggin' loser. She felt trapped, and any tiny technological glitch or problem would trigger thoughts of this fucking weirdo. Edit. To add a bit more meat to this, it's really killed her trust in technology. People tend to treat these situations like, "Are you sure you're not just crazy?" Or, "Have you bought a carbon monoxide detector?" Which just makes you feel so great. Honestly, seeing how it has damaged her, I think we're going to start seeing cases of PTSD that are attributed to tech abuse and cyberstalking. Sexual assault of all kinds. People usually only talk about rape, which is very horrific, but it's not the only way you can be sexually assaulted. I was drugged and assaulted by an adult, and it was horrific. I wasn't aware, but the immense disgust I felt upon hearing about what happened to me, how he took pictures of it, it made me sick, and I just feel like things like that are almost never addressed. Just because you weren't raped doesn't make you any less of a victim/survivor, and I wish people acknowledged that more. Having a teacher yell at you when you're already going through a hard time. 2 weeks before 8th grade started for me, my dad died. Everyone knew he was sick. They knew it was inevitable. My mom had a meeting with the school telling them what happened, but nobody cared. I dozed off in English once and got yelled at after class. I told them I was up all night crying. They said if I fall asleep in class again, I would get in school suspension. They didn't care that I was upset. My art teacher was nasty towards me. She wouldn't accept any excuses for assignments being late. She didn't care that I was grieving. She humiliated me in class. I got bullied by kids too. Nobody cared. Everyone told me, "You knew your dad was sick. You knew he was going to die. Quit crying like a baby." I heard that all the time. Living with a pest infestation. I've lived 2 places where there were pest problems now, and one of those was several kinds of pests, and it fucks with you. You're bracing yourself every time you open a cabinet. Your heart rate spikes every time you feel something brush against your leg. You turn on lights expecting to see them scatter. I got in a high-speed car crash recently. I was in the back seat of the car on the highway and the airbags blew. We crossed traffic. Glass went everywhere. Etc. We were okay except the driver, who was okay eventually just banged up. Knowing one little thing could have stopped my life then is something. Growing up with autism, especially without knowledge of your condition. I didn't find out I was on the spectrum until nearly 20, as my parents have repeatedly lied to me over the years to avoid getting the label attached. Miscarriage. My whole life was about to change. I had a whole future planned for us and that little life. And then I was supposed to go back to normal, because while it's acceptable to grieve the loss of a grown-up family member, we aren't supposed to talk about the loss of a tiny but whole life of what should have, could have been. Bullying. So many people downplay just how bad it can fuck you up to be bullied as a child. I'm in my 20s and still trying to unpack all the damage. I've been through some shit. I became partially paralyzed at 17. I woke up in my own bed to a burglar covering my mouth with his hand. I found one of the most important people in my life dead by suicide. But oddly, the thing that caused me the most nightmares and noticeable long-term impact was when I learned my best friend had been lying to my face. Big lies. For over a year. Up to that point, I had trusted this person more than I had ever trusted anyone in my entire life. Never, ever did I see it coming. It was so destabilizing and impacted all of my closest relationships to some degree. Unlike the other more acute and shocking traumas, it's also something I'm not sure I ever really moved past. I think it changed me forever, and not necessarily for the better. Being let go from a job without cause, when it was really because you put in complaints against the executive director. Now I'm terrified of losing every job I ever have, even when I have no reason to be. Burnout. Ever since recovering, I'm living a constant inner war between my need to perform/please and my fear of crossing my boundaries. I've never been the same, and in some ways I'm okay with that, as I do take it easier, but sometimes I flash back to being in such a bad state I can't function, and it makes me function less well. Finding out your dad isn't your dad. But on top of that, the entire family knew. Everyone, even the generation younger than me. The complete and utter betrayal by your family is crushing beyond any other betrayal. And I have been cheated on, so I do know the feeling. This is a million times worse. Child neglect. It throws you into a type of survival mode. At the time, it just feels like life. Maybe you have more freedoms than other kids because no one's really checking for you, so you feel capable and mature. But once things are actually normal, you're still in survival mode, but now it's not actually protecting you. Suddenly you're seeing just how unprepared you are and still feel like no one's gonna catch you. Unpredictable disruptions, changes in plans, or changing previously agreed upon decisions with parents take away the sense of stability and create chaos in life. It becomes impossible to plan or accomplish anything, or tasks left until the last minute may become impossible to complete because, for example, someone has made a plan to visit you. In adult life, people cannot plan anything and keep their life together, as they feel anxious all the time that something or someone would interrupt them. Long-term unemployment, financial stress, imposter syndrome, housing and food uncertainty, dehumanizing unemployment services, near constant job searching, 10+ hours a day, career path degradation, having bipolar disorder or any really serious mental illness. The shame from actions you made when you were out of control is extremely painful. Your disability is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. But if you don't have a doctor or haven't been diagnosed, or don't have the ability to get help, when you haven't been diagnosed and you don't have a doctor and you're not medicated, it's extremely hard to get the help you need to become stable. Which means you end up in a vicious cycle of doing things that are so out of character for who you really are, but you can't stop it because your brain is overriding your common sense and making you either manic and ecstatic and obsessed and in love with the world and believing that you're God or that you're sent by angels, to depressed where you can't get out of bed, you can't take care of yourself, and you can't complete your responsibilities as a human being. And you have to live with this dichotomy of who you are when you're stable, which is often fleeting, and who you are when you are insane. It's a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing, and it's extremely painful.
Thank you for watching. Bye bye.